Good morning, Toastmasters.
Good morning.
Shane, you were not shoveled up here. You did a fine job, my friend. Oops. All right. So, who here wishes their property taxes would go down? I think everybody would like lower taxes. Also, who here wishes Sioux Falls would just maintain our status quo, stop all this growth, et cetera, et cetera? Awesome, I like that answer too. So let me preface this. Oh, there we go. All right, sorry about that. Let me preface this presentation by saying this is a very, very, very high-level explanation of property taxes. As I'm sure a lot of you know, being in the school district kind of know a little bit about how they work and they're collected to fund what you all do. There are so many intricacies and nuances. This is very, very, very basic. So take all of this with a grain of salt. If you wish to learn in more detail, I can certainly talk to you about that after. So let's begin. All right. Let's start from the very beginning. According to the 2025 State Tax Competitive Index, which is put out by the Tax Foundation, South Dakota ranks number 2 in the nation for best tax environment. They measure everything you would think of: sales tax, property tax of individual houses and businesses, and income tax, everything. And South Dakota ranks number 2. So, in my opinion, some would ask here in South Dakota, is there really a problem to solve if we're already number 2? There's only one spot we can go up. All right, we will go over some terms here so that we all know exactly what we're talking about. You have to understand too that the United States does property tax assessments very backwards. Normally when you get a tax, the government entity receives the tax dollars and then they set a budget. It's done completely backwards for property taxes. The budget is set and then they go and collect the dollars. So taxing districts are entities with the authority to levy property taxes like cities, counties, townships, school districts, fire, ambulance, water, and road special districts. Does anybody know how much of your property tax goes to the state? No, 0. Nothing in property that we collect in property taxes goes to the state of South Dakota. Levy, tax rate, mill levy, those are all interchangeable. They all mean the same thing. So if you hear one, it means all of them. The tax rate needed to distribute the tax burden evenly amongst all property within the jurisdiction, requested by dollars per 1,000 of taxable valuation. So think of this as the multiplier. They set the budget. We'll get into valuation in a second, but they evaluate all the real property and they divide those by each other essentially to get the mill levy or the tax rate, the multiplier. Again, it's very backwards. Assessments. So there's 3 key assessment techniques that the counties in South Dakota use: the market approach, the cost approach, income approach. The market approach and the cost approach are the 2 most common. Basically, market is comp shopping. The cost approach is they determine what it would actually cost to build now and then depreciate based on inflationary measures and other measures. So that's your assessment. That's how they assess your property, how much your property is worth. In South Dakota, again, in general, only 85% of the value of your house or business building is taxable. Taxing your property. Okay, so when they go to actually tax the property, they establish the tax rate. Tax levies for each taxing jurisdiction are determined by dividing the tax request by the total taxable value within the taxing jurisdiction and multiplying the result by 1,000. The county auditor determines the tax rate or levy for all taxing districts that have the authority to levy a property tax within their county. So again, those districts are the schools, cities, counties, etc. And then we go into actually calculating the tax. Taxes are calculated for individual properties by multiplying the taxable value times the total sum of all levies. So again, budget, assessment, divide, mill levy, tax. All right, calculations. Everybody loves calculations. Any math teachers in here, former math teachers? There we go. All right, so this is basically just what we talked about on the last slide, but the mathematics of it all. The tax rate is the need, so the budget, if you will, of the taxing district divided by the value times 1,000. That's your tax rate, your mill levy, your levy, whatever you want to call it. And so if we have $100,000 in need, we divide that by $10 million in property value, multiply that by 1,000, and that's $10 per thousand of value. So you have a $10 levy. This is just simple math. Usually levies are singular dollars, even cents. So to tax the property, we take the value times the tax rate divided by 1,000. I missed the parenthesis there. And that's your taxes. So imagine a $150,000 home. We multiply that by the levy divided by 1,000, and your tax for that year is $1,500. Any questions on that? All right, now the correlation. Taxes versus valuation. So essentially what I'm going to prove to you or show to you that the more valuation, the more homes, industrial businesses, commercial businesses, the more property you have to valuate, the less your individual property tax is going to be. So if we only have a few buildings to valuate, your burden, your share of what we need to pay to get the budget is going to be a lot higher. Inversely, if we have a ton of stuff to valuate, theoretically, your taxes are going to be lower. Your specific burden is going to be lower. Higher taxes, lower valuation. Higher valuation, lower taxes. Everybody see? All right. So I debated whether or not to put this in the presentation, but thought if I didn't, there'd be questions. This is the property tax timetable, essentially the life cycle of your property tax. In November, the counties have to begin the assessment process. Then in March, they send you the notice. March to June, you have the ability to challenge. In October, property tax requests from taxing districts are due to the auditor. That is the case for schools, cities, and counties. For townships, they have theirs actually in by about March. They're due in March. November to December, auditors calculate levies. By November 1, DOR certifies the levies, and then January 1, tax bills are mailed out. So the taxes you're paying right now this year are for your valuation from 2025. Okay. So key takeaways, and you might have some other takeaways as well. South Dakota taxes are already some of the lowest in the nation. We can't get much lower. We're already number 2. We can only jump one spot. There's basically nowhere to go but up, and nobody wants taxes raised up. Any major tax reform, removing taxes without replacing it immediately, would be very fiscally irresponsible. South Dakota counties and cities, schools are already stretched insanely thin. We already ask so much of our government entities and our school districts to operate. And the best way to lower property tax is through economic development and growth. The more homeowners and business owners that there are that share the burden, the lower your property taxes will go. So right now in South Dakota, from my vantage point, what I'm seeing and hearing, there are a lot of people at the legislature that are very anti-growth, but they also want property taxes to come down. You can't have both. So that is what I've got. At this point, we'll take questions if anybody has questions.
I have read that one of our gubernatorial candidates is suggesting that we just allow property taxes. But I have not read what's taking place.
Yeah, nobody's read what.
Schools?
Yeah, nobody's read what his plan is because he doesn't have a plan. So yeah, that's a good point. If you abolish property taxes, you're gonna have to raise the sales tax. We're gonna have to create an income tax. I mean, it's got to come from somewhere. You're right. I mean, the alternative from growing is cutting budgets if you want to lower your property taxes. So yeah, I mean, city programs are gone. Your streets won't be plowed. School districts will be, underfunded. So yeah, that's a huge question. You're right. The candidate has all these grand ideas, but nothing to back them up yet. So yeah.
When you were saying 0% goes into the state, where does it go?
The property taxes, the vast majority of the percentage of property taxes goes to the school districts.